Hello everyone, today I am back with a new video talking about Maxime Bernier and his pledge to balance the federal budget in 2 years if elected Prime Minister. We'll go over the numbers and see if this is actually possible considering the promises he has made. So stick around until the very end and find out, or don't stick around, either way. Anyway, the promise to balance the budget in 2 years certainly differentiates Max from the others in a pretty big and significant way. Trudeau campaigned on a promise of small deficits and now has no plans to balance the budget. I don't know how far he's going back. I think the last time they had projections to 2030 and the budget still wasn't balanced. So either way, Scheer, on the other hand, has backtracked and promised a balanced budget in 5 years instead of two. And I think we can all agree that Scheer will not balance the budget in 5 years. He has just not made any promises of significant cuts anywhere, and considering his style of compromising and cutting deals, it seems impossible that he would be willing to alienate certain groups by making big cuts in the budget. So this leaves Maxime as the most reliable candidate if balancing the budget is important to you. To start off, the projected deficit for 2018-2019 is a little shy of 20 billion. But Max has also made some big promises in terms of tax cuts, which will bring the deficit up considerably. The first cut is the personal income tax rates. There are currently five tax brackets which income is taxed at, and they are very quickly 15%, 20.5, 26, 29, and finally 33% tax bracket at the very top. Max wants to simplify the rates and have just two brackets. 15% for income below 100,000 and 25% for income above 100,000. I am certainly on board with this. Ideally, we would remove all income taxes and just use consumption taxes, but that is a topic for another day, I suppose. The current revenues for personal income taxes is 162 billion, including capital gains. Personally, I am not a good enough researcher to be able to get precise numbers of where exactly this 162 billion is coming from. I just can't use StatsCan for the life of me. Like, I can't navigate it at all. I know the numbers must be in there, but I sure as hell can't find it. So I guess we'll just have to use some basic math and basic assumptions. And doing that, some average percentages, average weight, I feel safe in saying these tax cuts alone will cost somewhere near $30 billion. The next tax cut is corporate income tax from 15% to 10%, and this is an easy one. It's a straight up 33% cut in the tax rates, and revenues from corporate taxes is an expected 52 billion. So we take a 33% tax cut out of that, which would cost roughly $17 billion more. And finally, Max has promised to completely eliminate the capital gains tax. This will most likely apply to people who sell their shares of their businesses or derive the majority of their income from trading shares. I honestly wasn't able to see how much revenues were supposed to be from this source, but conservatively speaking, let's assume it's 10% of the 162 billion in personal income revenues for a total tax cut in this area of 16 billion. So add up the price tag of these tax cuts along with the current deficit, and we have a total of $83 billion that Max needs to eliminate in 2 years to honor his promise of balancing the budget in 2 years. To his credit, he has proposed a lot of tax cuts, a lot of cuts to spending. So let's see what they add up to. The first one is cut the funding for the CBC. This is roughly 1 billion support the CBC gets annually from the government, which Max has proposed to cut. Second one is cut all foreign aid. This is close to 6 billion. And the big one is remove all forms of corporate welfare. This cut is a bit harder to estimate, and Max, I don't think, has anywhere in his website where he gives how much of a saving this will be. But I did find a National Post article talking about a study that estimates federal subsidies at 342 billion between 1981 and 2009. So if we consider inflation and growth of government, let's estimate that today that would save 60 billion a year. And then you can add another couple of billion for miscellaneous give outs to businesses like, Bombardier, like, was it this year or last year, got some money, just out of the blue, just because they asked for it. So, and there's instances like where bailed out the auto sector. So Canadian government federal government is pretty flexible about giving big businesses just money here and there, not on a consistent basis. So yeah, 16 billion cut. Let's say that would save in spending. And lastly, Max has promised to reform equalization to be more fair. Again, no real details on this, hasn't been clear, so we're going to have to assume again. So let's just be generous and say by reforming equalization, that will provide another 30% cut in spending. Equalization payments are expected to be 19 billion. This means a 30% cut would lead to 6 billion in savings. So add it all up, and Max is proposing 29 billion in cuts to spending. So to recap, the tax cuts Max is proposing are somewhere near 63 billion. Then we have to add another 20 billion for the current deficit for a total of 83 billion cuts to spending Max has to make. This means that Max is short 54 billion on cuts to spending he has to make to balance the budget. So yeah, there is a slight problem here, and by slight I mean a huge gaping hole. So that's a lot of money, and I think Max has to show a realistic plan on how to balance the budget. Right now, there is nothing detailed on his website. This makes him look like the typical politician who makes big promises but has no idea how to fulfill them. Skimming the budget, I think it is possible to cut close to another 50 billion without cutting too deeply into welfare payments, but I think you're gonna have to touch up some of them, like the Canada Health Transfer and whatnot. I think you just can't credibly come up with 60 billion, and you probably have to go. An easy one would be to eliminate a lot of tax credits that currently give Canadians more money, and that all goes to the idea of just simplifying the tax code. Keep in mind that, the tax code he is proposing would be a big stimulus to the economy too. I think we'd see economic growth take off. A lot of foreign investment coming in, just people generally more excited about investing their money and working, considering they would get to keep more of it with all the tax cuts. So that would be a boon too, but still, we're talking like quite a big hole he has to fill here. Yeah, I think it is possible to cut another 50 billion, but it will require a lot of explanation to voters, and this will be a difficult conversation, which I guess Max doesn't want to have right now. And until PPC members start asking harder questions of Max, I don't think we'll see anything anytime soon. And so that's just something to keep in mind. And that pretty much brings the video to an end. And this next part is a little bit more unscripted, so I'm just going to speak off the cuff here. So I was, while I was making this video, just writing the script for it, Max came out with his immigration policy, and I'm obviously quite disappointed with the campaign strategy he is choosing to go with. So that will be my next video. But suffice to say, this is it was almost difficult to put this video. The only reason why I did this budget video is because I had already spent quite a few, not quite a few hours, but a few hours just navigating the Canada Revenue websites, trying to find out all these numbers and trying to do some little bit of research on that. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't make this video because, quite honestly, I don't think Maxime Bernier is going to have any meaningful impact in Canadian politics, and even if he did, it's going to be exactly the wrong type. So it's been incredibly disappointing. We'll make that the next video, and this is probably the last positive video I'll make on Maxime Bernier, but we'll leave that for the next one. And yeah, so let me know what you think though about the budget numbers. What were you aware that he's short on spending cuts? Do you even care about it? Do you believe that he'll balance the budget in 2 years if he somehow becomes prime minister? Just what are your general thoughts on that? And I'll leave it on that note, and I hope to catch you all next time on the next video.